Gosh, it is sweaty outside, but I mean, it's not sweaty, it's hot outside, and I am sweaty. But we're just gonna start. This video was inspired by me returning to the world of like booktube and book talk and social media books, because I did this in 2022 back when I was promoting my own book, which didn't really happen because I sucked at marketing, had no idea how to do it, and I was writing it. So it was kind of hard to promote at the same time. But I did find myself within the book talk sphere and realized how it works. A lot of things are just like regurgitated over and over again, and you're kind of seeing all the same things, and everybody's obsessed with the same books. And I remember not liking it so much then, and then I just completely went off of it. Now we're like over 2 years later, and I'm back in this social media sphere, but now on booktube, which I must say I prefer a lot more. I feel like there's a lot more nuance, a lot more like actual literary breakdowns, a lot more content as opposed to just like the flash of a cover with people like, oh my god, I love this, I hate this, I'm crying, I'm sad, I'm happy, I'm turned on, whatever. So I'm back, and I'm having the same realization about like the popular books that everyone's talking about, the things everyone's obsessed with. It's always the same thing. It's always like everybody's talking about the same thing. And I've always said that I'm not like this. I'm not like other girls. I think I've made that joke multiple times before. Oh, a butterfly. Did you guys see that? Okay, so it's not that. It's just that, like, I'm not spending obscene amounts of money on books that I'm never gonna read. I don't really spend money on books. Like, I buy, like, usually secondhand books or, like, cheap books, but I'm usually at the library. And that means my reading habits are quite different than everyone else's. But I still feel like I am ruled by the algorithm. So let's talk about it. But also, this is real. This is a real background. I am on an island in Brazil. It is so beautiful here. It's fake. It's literally, I mean, it's not fake. It just feels fake. The place is just perfect. It's like 29 degrees today. Hopefully everyone understands Celsius, but that's like 85, I guess, if you don't. And the sun is shining, or it's shining now. It poured this morning, back when I wanted to film as well. And I had to wait like 4 hours for everything kind of to dry up, and then I'm here. So yeah, I just want to talk about this, and I want to hear what you guys have to say. This video was also kind of inspired by Lady of the Library. Her video just popped up for me, and I had already been thinking about it, and then I had to click because it was very interesting. She was talking about like, you know, being ruled by book talk.
I'm actually kind of sick of people telling me what the latest must-read book must be, because quite frankly, I find the majority of them have bad taste.
I feel like unless you literally hide yourself under a rock and don't talk to anybody and don't interact with anyone and don't go online and you don't walk into Barnes and Nobles, you will not be able to escape the popular books and the death grip they have on the reading world. I guess we're gonna have some background music. All right, okay. Let me explain. I don't buy books often. Like I said, I'm usually checking ebooks out from the library, putting them onto my Kindle while I travel the world. But because I am online and because I love to read, I find myself in the sphere of booktube. And I see what the popular books are of the time, and they for sure influence my decisions. I no longer exist in this bubble of just the books that I find. It's the books that everybody's talking about, that I'm seeing through the lenses of, oh, everybody's talking about that, or hey, I've actually never heard of that one. As a child, I did kind of exist in a bubble. Well, obviously it wasn't a complete bubble. Thankfully, I actually had a lot of friends who loved to read, and we'd all share books and ideas and you know, comments, and just like we were obsessed with the same things. And that was wonderful. I loved that. But I didn't have social media. I didn't browse the internet. It wasn't something that was happening at the time. And it was the books that like my friends who I trusted recommended to me, right? It was the people that I met in camp who were like, who brought books to camp, and I borrowed those books and I loved or I hated, and we discuss it, but it was personal recommendations. I also used to go to the library every weekend, and I'd spend hours, I am not kidding you, hours just like walking up and down the aisles of my favorite genres and just flipping open books and reading them, just looking at covers and reading the back covers and reading the blurbs and just trying to figure out what I wanted to read. And that is how I discovered most of my favorite authors, series, characters. That is how I did it, just by like accidentally stumbling upon them in a library. Or really, it wasn't an accident. It was like purposefully stumbling into stuff because I would put myself in that environment of being able to find things, right? Because it was a library and it had every book and it was all just out there for me to read. And I think I could take out like 30 books at a time. And I usually took out, I'm not kidding, 15. Like, I wish I had pictures of the books. They were just like stacked like yay high. They were high. They were just like tons of books. And I would usually finish one like Friday night, the whole book was done. And then throughout the week, you know, depending on how busy I was at school and how much homework I had, I would just read. All my books that I was reading kind of existed within me. Like, it was my decision and I was not influenced really by the outside world. Of course, we're all a little bit influenced unless, you know, you're locked in a cellar or something and don't have any interaction with anybody anywhere. But like, it was different. But now it's not like that. Now I'm an adult who scrolls a lot online because I have a phone and I don't have a mom telling me not to. And you know, you end up seeing things that people love or people hate. Usually people love. And subconsciously, they all end up influencing my decision. Just how could they not? I am human, and that is how life works. I still manage to discover new books that I love, don't get me wrong, because of, you know, my habits with the library or walking into secondhand bookstores around the world. So they're not like heavily curated, but it's gonna be different. Like the other day, I went on to Libby and I wanted an audiobook specifically because there's just nothing like an audiobook while you're flying. I love just putting my headphones in and just listening to a story. And I sorted by popular and available now, always available now, and fantasy, because I wanted fantasy. But like, if you sort by popular, you're gonna end up, and then what came up was popular books, and I recognize them because I'm online. That's just how it works, right? And that is what led me to listening to Assistant to the Villain, which I will discuss another time, but I got some things to say about it. Now, I'm not even saying I want to bring back the reading of my childhood. I love the sense of community that exists now. I apologize profusely for the abrupt change of scenery. It's actually the same scenery, but you can't tell because it's nighttime. Yes, people decided to just interrupt my workday and go swimming in the pool when there's literally a beach 5 minutes away. Like, come on. But yeah, so then I decided that I was going to go to the beach instead of filming. And now I'm here and it is 8:35 at night. And I'm like, well, I gotta finish this video because I was kind of on a roll. Like, I knew where I was going, I knew what I wanted to talk about, and then all of a sudden I like had to stop. So here I am starting again. But I had to do a bunch of more mic tests, and it's like also there's a bunch of people out, it sounds like. It sounds like people around me. It's windier, so there's more like noise around me. So this is really the test of this mic that I spent a lot of freaking money on. So let's see if we get good audio, and I hope that I know where I was talking about. What was I talking about? I think I was talking about, right, I don't want to give up on the sense of community that exists now because of Book Talk or BookTube, basically book social medias, right? That didn't exist before, and so many more people are reading and getting into books and discussing books. Like, I have a friend from high school who just messaged me and was like, oh my god, I'm reading this book, like, do you read her? Like, a famous popular person. And I was like, I happen to not, but like, it's just exciting that people who didn't read before are reading now. God, I really do apologize for this boring background. Like, it was so nice before. It's gonna be like so jarring, be like blue and green, bright skies, and then bam, night. But what are you gonna do? Anyways, the sense of the community is great, right? Just, what am I trying to say? Like, there's midnight releases, people getting obsessed with characters, author readings, eagerly awaiting new books coming out in the series. Like, that is amazing that we have that nowadays. And I know we had it younger, but now it's like on a global scale and just like this huge way online. You could connect with people who are into different things and like really find your people. And that is what I think the book community online has done. It's brought a lot of people together. So it's really not all bad. There is so much good there. But with one caveat, it feels like there's always just like one book. Obviously not one. I am extremely like generalizing. I'm exaggerating, but like one book that everyone's talking about. Just like the couple famous books, and you just hear them regurgitated all the freaking time. And like nobody formed their own opinion about this one book. They've just taken the opinion that everyone else has said. Do you hear those people talking? They are interrupting my video. Should I tell them to be quiet? I do not speak Portuguese. Also, it's kind of rude to tell people to be quiet in their own home, but I won't then. Sorry about this. So nobody forms their own opinion about books. They like what people like, they don't like what other people don't like, and that feels frustrating. Like sometimes it doesn't feel like people even read the book. They're just like read a summary to take part in the hype, which I understand a bit. Like community is a real thing, but it's at the expense of like finding out new ideas, new concepts, new characters, things that are different from what's generally spoken about. Now, if you've seen any of my videos or shorts, you know that I really enjoyed Fourth Wing and I am eagerly awaiting Onyx Storm. I know it's out already, but I have it on hold at the library and with a 25-week wait. So that is something I gotta wait for. It's like over half a year, which is nuts. Hopefully it goes faster. Hopefully like they get more books, they get more like copies of it so I could go through the line quicker. But I'm not like immune or like above reading what's popular. I love reading what's popular. I remember being obsessed with Harry Potter. Still am obsessed with Harry Potter. I'm a huge fan, like just crazy. But my friend was telling me that they won't read it because it's popular, and I was like, so you're gonna lose out on reading a fantastic, amazing series. You don't even have to think it's good, but like it has the potential to be so good because so many people are so obsessed with it because it's popular. Like you don't want to read it because it's popular, and that didn't make sense to me. That already feels like, I don't know, cutting off your nose to spite your face, which is the most cliche analogy. That's what I'm saying. I'm not above reading popular things. And if that means that you can't trust anything I say because I read popular things, then fine. Like go find someone else who only reads like obscure literature from like authors you've never heard of. But like I'm interested in reading popular things because I want to connect with people that are all reading the popular things. And like the books that I'm obsessed with, sometimes nobody's reading. I have to be like, please read this, like force people to read the books that I'm interested in. So people are already obsessed. Actually, the funny thing about Fourth Wing is I was never going to read it ever. It just didn't sound like anything I'd be interested in. And then I met someone on our travels who recommended the book to me, and my husband read it first and he loved it. And so like again, that sense of community of just like, well, I need to connect with you now. Like you like the book, let me read the book too. And that's okay if a popular book did that. Like if a popular book, and like it doesn't need to be deep or insightful, it just needs to be enjoyable, because that's what reading is. Not all reading is meant to make you think and change your views on the world. Sometimes it's just meant to entertain, and that's okay. Books have become like geared towards less literate people is an argument I've heard, but who cares? Like not everything is meant to entertain. But there are books that are for so many people out there, but they're not given an opportunity to shine, to see the spotlight, because everybody's looking at the same books. It's like, okay, you love the genre of fantasy. Do you know how many fantasy books there are? Or are you only ever going to read the famous fantasy books? Because that would be crazy. And as much as I love Harry Potter, don't only read Harry Potter, because there are so many amazing fantasy books out there. That's just like limiting your scope of like this genre in such a big way. I always like to check out popular books because I hope they're popular for a reason. Although lately I don't feel that same way. Like I feel like popular books are just popular because, I don't know, spicy scenes. Like I'm feeling a little bit more judgy about it lately, but in general, like popular books will pique my interest. Then so many popular books end up falling flat. Like Crescent City, which I really detested, or Caraval, which was recommended so many times. I literally just like saw this. I mean, I just remembered I had this from X, which somebody was like, you gotta read it. And I was like, like you got it, you're gonna love it. Obviously this is a random stranger. They don't know me, they don't know what I like. They're just telling me to read something. And so I did. And it's like, yeah, that was an interesting book. I'm gonna hopefully make a whole video on Caraval, because I just think making smaller videos geared towards one book is very beneficial for people who want to discuss that one book. But yeah, those are popular books. I'll never pick up a Colleen Hoover book in my life. I just cannot stand this genre. Like everything I've heard about it, not into those types of books at all. Especially the whole sobbing people afterwards. Like no, not gonna do that. And also apparently her writing sucks. I've only seen a brief bit of it when I flipped through it at a bookstore, but yeah, no, not Not my vibe. I'm not even giving her a chance. I think she's doing fine without me though. I don't think she needs me to like her stories. She's got a big enough fan base for that. Basically what I said in the beginning, so yeah, the lady of the library. So she made very interesting points. She just popped up and her accent is so wonderful, and every time I listen to British people, I just immediately start trying to talk in a British accent. My dad's British and I'm not saying I'm that good at it, but my mouth wants to form the words. Do you know what I mean? And they do sometimes, and then sometimes they don't, and sometimes it comes out awful. She posed a question. Have we become too reliant on recommendations and vulnerable to manipulation? The way it works, and I've seen this happen to me, but like the way it works is that if you talk about a popular book, you will get more viewers. So obviously you're gonna lean into that. If you're a new booktuber and it's like, oh, everybody's talking about Fourth Wing, well, maybe read Fourth Wing so your channel could blow up, right? But if everybody's leaning to it because it's popular, nobody's reading it because they wanted to read it, and everybody's forming opinions that everybody else has because they want the viewerships, then you're just getting the same people saying the same things with nothing interesting. I did it with Crescent City. I didn't like it, but I specifically read it and reviewed it because it was popular. Well, that's not true. I read it because it was popular, because I wanted to read a really good book, and I was like, hey, if I like Fourth Ring, maybe I'll love Crescent City, and I just did not. Check out the video if you want all my thoughts on it. It's so cringy. I'm sure I'm gonna do it again. I mean, I'll always give a real review of how I feel about the books, and I'm not saying other people aren't doing that. I'm just setting a little disclaimer. But until I get a little bit more subscribers and a little bit more views, I don't know how I have the luxury to talk about whatever I want, because nobody cares. People care about what everybody's talking about, and I have to make them care, right? So I have to be like, hey, I read this book everybody's talking about, let me tell you my ideas. And then, oh, hey, I read this book that you might have never heard of. Maybe you want to hear it because you like my other videos. But hey, I'm so small that you know no one's paying me to review these books. So I'm not lying, although why would I ever lie about that? Back to the main point, do we give too much weight to the books recommended on social media? And we might be more inclined to think that the books recommended on social media are given from authentic places and people. But I kind of feel like it's an echo chamber of people afraid to escape the safe cocoon of what's popular. Read SJM, they scream. It's the mob mentality. All you can do is say, yes sir, wow, I love Rysand, oh my gosh. Now, how do I know that character? I've never read A Court of Thorn and Roses, but that's the point. I mean, like, I'm 99% certain that's the character from there, and he's like a fairy king, and he's way older than his lover, Fair. I don't know how to say her name, but I feel like I've seen it written. And I literally just know that from existing in a world that loves ACOTAR, which admittedly is kind of crazy that I can know so much about a book that I've never actually read. But back to loving the popular books. If we didn't, then we wouldn't have that connection. And I think connection is really important with books, because you don't, I mean, I know when I read a book that I love, I need to talk about it. I need to discuss it with somebody. I want to be like, oh my God, what did you think of X, Y, Z? And just be like, yes. And that's what popular books give us. Everybody's talking about it. We wouldn't have that connection. We wouldn't have the cosplay of characters or the amazing fan fiction that gives us a non-canon view or backstory of the world that we love. I mean, I'd really miss that if we didn't have that. Wouldn't you? So this isn't even to say that it's bad that everyone's reading the same books or that the same authors are always getting promoted. Like, if you don't have a lot of time to read, you might not want to waste it trying to discover somebody who's awesome. But if you do read a lot and you have the luxury of consuming many books in a year, then wander into a library. Go into the section of your favorite genre and just browse. See what jumps out at you without all the screaming of the online world. And I say libraries because bookstores have highly curated sections. I remember going to Barnes & Nobles and being so excited, and all I saw were the same books that were showing up online over and over again. Also books that were $30, and I was like, what the heck? But just the same books, and I'm like, where's the new exciting discovery? Like, I want to discover something, but it felt like it was already discovered for me. So that is why I specify a library. You'll see what you like just from you liking it and not from the loudness around you. Like, who knows? Maybe you'll discover your favorite author. Thank you for bearing with me as the views, settings, and audio all changed dramatically throughout this video. I hope you enjoyed. Please leave a comment if you have anything to say about this, because it is, I feel like, very polarizing, but I feel like there's two very justified sides. It's an interesting balance between the two. Let me know what you thought. If you hated this video, then give it a thumbs down. Oh, if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. But if you hate it, give it a thumbs down and let me know why, because you telling me why helps me improve my next video. You could just say you suck also. I mean, I might cry, but it's okay. I have people who love me in my life, so that's fine. And subscribe for more book stuff. Just book stuff. It's gonna be all about books. The end.